Hey, it's me, Vicki. Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, I've not been on for a couple of days, and that's for the simple reason I've been a little bit traumatized, as I'm sure you have, with everything that's going on with the war, and then there's the Epstein files, and then nothing seems to be moving in some of the cases that we're covering, like Nancy's still. We haven't really got any proper news about, what's happened to her. So anyway, I thought to come on this morning, we'd just talk about Nancy. I don't want to stop talking about her. I don't want to feel that I'm not talking about this case. But it's difficult, when there is literally not really that much to say, though there's a few things, a few bits of information that we've found out. Now, what day are we on with Nancy? I mean, I've lost track. Is it day 32, day 33? Too many days. Anyway, that's one thing we do know. It's been too many days since Nancy Guthrie was plucked from her bed and taken away in the middle of the night or in the early hours of the morning by who knows? We don't know who, we don't know why, we don't know really anything or how. We don't know, we know when, more or less, but we don't even know the exact time. But we don't know who did it, we don't know why they did it, and we don't know how they did it, do we? It's a very mysterious case. Anyway, as I say, I've not been on for a couple of days, but I'm going to. There's a few bits of information I want to give you about other cases that have come up. I've been looking at the Epstein files, which is, it's sort of like I don't know why I'm looking at it because it's so depressing. But the actual breadth and depth of and the volume of the Epstein files, and we've not even seen all of it. You could have, God, you could sit there for weeks going through it, and I'm going to do a video about it maybe tonight. I'm not sure, but it's quite depressing. So apart from the war and everything else that's going on in this mad world, then there's the actual real life stories, things, like the true crime that's going on. And there's always, one thing about true crime, there's always going to be another story out there. And that's why it's important that we don't lose sight of the stories, the cases. Stories probably not a good word. The cases that we're looking at, we don't want to forget them, but other cases come up and other news comes up. Of course, what's happened with the war and everything is that it has took the news cycle away from Nancy's case. But to be fair, there's not been really lots of things to report anyway. So I'm going to just talk today, I think, about what has sort of come up, whether we think Sheriff Nanos, of course, the good old deputy dog, he said in his last interview they were closer. They were getting closer. Do we believe him? This is the problem with Sheriff Nanos. He did an interview with a couple of days ago, a first one he'd done for a little while, wasn't it? With Savannah's TV station, the TV station that Savannah was. Is it NBC, I think? And he did it this time. He was wearing his sheriff uniform, thank goodness, not his purple shirt like he's on, dating show or whatever. He was wearing his sheriff's uniform, and it's he should wear his sheriff's uniform. He should look professional when he's having an interview. Anyway, he said, but as I say, do we even believe what he says anymore? That he said they were getting closer. Getting closer. Now, I hope they are getting closer. So there's been this special task force set up, hasn't there? Certain number of detectives from Pima County and the FBI dealing exclusively with Nancy's case. It is pretty unbelievable, isn't it? that no one's been arrested. I know people have been detained, but when you think of the evidence that they do have, I mean, you can't get much better evidence than actual CCTV of the perpetrator actually going into the house. If he was going into the house, then I mean, some people now are saying maybe he'd already been in the house. We just don't know, do we? We don't know because we don't know what time that was, and had Nancy already been taken out of the house? Was there somebody waiting up the road with a getaway car? How did they get a woman out of that house who had very bad mobility? Or was she already deceased? So these are all the questions. The blood on the step, I heard people saying that was a good sign that she was probably still alive when she came out of the house, because of course you stop bleeding, I suppose, when you die. Sorry to be graphic, but I'm just going through the options. Is that a good sign? That in the sense, I mean, it's a bad sign obviously, because it means she was injured, but a good sign, did that mean she was alive when she was taken from the house? Can she possibly still be alive now? Would somebody have looked after her all this time? You just can't imagine that poor woman could still be alive, but we just don't know, do we? What about all these ransom demands that were made? Why have they not been traced back to the person who sent them, whether it is the real kidnapper or not? Very strange. So anyway, apparently they've got all this video evidence, haven't they, to go through, and that does take time. Of course it does take time. So they'll be checking all the vehicles around the area. Hi, old hippie. They must have checked. The thing is, before they can check sort of Mexico, they've got the bridge going over to Mexico. They've got to have a vehicle, haven't they, that they're looking for? You can sit and look at the video of the cars going over to Mexico, but if you don't know which particular vehicle you're looking for, you've got to be looking for a certain vehicle, haven't you? Have they even identified a vehicle? They said they hadn't, didn't they? How have they not identified a vehicle? I mean, I don't know. There can't be that many vehicles that were on the road at that time in the morning around there. It must have been captured somewhere. So maybe either they've just not come across it yet, or they've come across it but they haven't traced it back to whoever it is. Maybe it was that vehicle that's seen around the time. Remember the cover, the video that we saw of a vehicle? Was it 2.5 miles away or something? Was it that vehicle? And if they have identified that as a vehicle of interest, maybe they've looked for that going over the border. I know, some people think she went over the border, or at least the perpetrators went over the border, and maybe they did. But I don't know. Then, of course, we had the interview with Luke and his mum. Now, a lot of people are saying, because although they both came over to me as quite genuine in that interview, but then when I watched it back, why did he have so many clothes on? This is, apparently, if you look at Brianna, who was interviewing him, the journalist who was interviewing him, she had a tiny little sleeveless red dress on, a summer dress, a smart dress. She looked lovely, nice, smart, professional, and everybody else had like t-shirts on and shorts. When it was she put another video out showing the build up to the interview, and there was Luke in this with a lot of clothes on. Maybe I'll be able to show it you. So it's, you think, why did he have so many clothes on? Was he covering up tattoos? Because it was a really hot day. Why did he not have short sleeves on? It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was he trying to cover up tattoos? Was he, let's have a look, behind the scenes. So she put a video out on her X. Here is behind the scenes raw footage of the moments before we began our interview. Let's see. And this is what made me look. I think, why is he all dressed up now? Oh, hippie, you live in Arizona, don't you? So apparently it was 90 degrees that day. Because actually I did tweet onto it, and Brianna answered, which was very nice of her. And I'll show you in a minute what she said. So, I'm not saying that Luke is guilty, but it is strange that he had so many clothes on. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe to cover up his tattoos. He's also clean shaven, of course. We did notice that. So having said that, this guy's got a suit on. So Luke comes in. Look at all these clothes he's got on.
Hey, Luke. You doing? Thank you so much. I get up. I'm just on my day. We're gonna get you all.
So Brianna's got a summer dress on.
Mic'd up right there. Hold
on, before you sit down.
Then he wants.
We're
gonna wait. He wants to be in here, right?
Yeah. Pop out your collar for me, man.
And when they wanted to put his microphone on, so he's got this, it looks like a waistcoat over a plaid shirt. He even looks to me that he might have a shirt on underneath. I did, think, is he trying to look fatter? Because he did look fatter. Maybe, what is he trying to cover up here? Do you see what I'm saying? Why has he got all those clothes on? Anyway, he's clean shaven and everything, so you can see that where his moustache and the goatee thing would be exactly what was showing through on the video of the perpetrator. Is that why is that why he went clean shaven? But maybe, don't forget he's under scrutiny. He knows he's going to be under scrutiny of a lot of people, so maybe just wanted to look as little like the predator as possible, or perpetrator, I meant to say. But this shirt does look to me like he's even maybe got another shirt on underneath.
Better, makes it easier for me.
The best is ideal for the mic.
I'm just going to clip this on right here for you. And but back up.
Also, I'm sort of. He does look like the perpetrator.
Perfect. Chris, sorry, I know it's not ideal in the corner for
Sorry.
you, but sorry, no, we don't have an extra. Perfect. Chris, sorry, I know it's not ideal in the corner for you, but sorry, I know we don't have an extra.
When you see him, is this him? Honestly, I'm so confused. Look, he does look a bit like if you imagine with the mask on, you can see where his moustache would have been, and right here under his lip. So, I don't know. When I was actually watching the interview the first time, it looks like in there. I do feel for Luke, but like any of them.
Perfect. Chris, sorry, I know it's not ideal in the corner for you, but sorry, I know.
Anyone who's, look, this guy's just got a t-shirt on. Why has he got all these clothes on?
We don't have an extra.
No.
You are all good.
And he fattens it all back up again. I swear he's got another shirt on under this shirt. Look at his arms.
See just a couple. Appreciate it.
And when we do it, you'll just look at me.
So when I put a comment under Brianna's tweet, and then she answered it and she said it was 90 degrees. That's why she wore that dress, which can't speak for Luke. Hi, Daniel. So, is there any significance in that he had so many clothes on? I don't know, is the answer to that. As I say, the first time I watched him and his mum being interviewed, I felt really sorry for them. I feel really sorry for anyone who's come under suspicion if they're not guilty, of course. And then going back to what you said, old hippie Tommaso, people are still talking about Tommaso, either the brother-in-law or son-in-law, I should say, even though actually, it has been cleared, or according to Sheriff Nanos, who, of course, you can't believe a word he says. I'll just put this on him again.
The best is ideal.
I just want to stop it. Look there. That's where I think he does look like the perpetrator. But I do think that that CCTV could more or less, as I said, could be anyone, couldn't it? Because we can't see enough. But it could be him. It does look like him, but it probably looks like a million other people as well. So yeah, just something that's the clothes. He's got at least 2 shirts on. He's got a tie on, which fair enough because he wants to look smart for the interview. He's got then a waistcoat on over that. It's like he's trying to bulk up. Yeah, why did he wear all those clothes? Apparently it was 90 degrees. Strange, anyway. Right, well, before I carry on anymore, I just wanted to say my thank yous. I just realised I haven't said my thank yous. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe. I really appreciate all the support you give to my channel. Thank you to those of you who are members. Special thank you to my members. Thank you to those of you who sent me Ko-fis, super stickers, etc. Every positive contribution to my channel is really appreciated. Thank you. So let's take that off. Okay, so yeah, so that's something I just wanted to talk about because I haven't spoken about the all the clothes he's wearing. I didn't realise it at first. The first time I watched it, we watched his interview together. It was afterwards when Brianna put that interview on her, the prelude to the interview on her Twitter that I noticed. Do you know that? Why he almost looks like, what it looks like? When dog handlers, when they're training their dogs and they sense the dogs have got to sort of run after someone and they're all bulked up, because obviously the dog's going to bite them, so that the dog doesn't hurt them really. That's what it reminded me of. It was like he was all bulked up for a dog training exercise. Why? I don't know. And I thought, is he trying to look fatter than he is? Is he trying to cover up tattoos? So a lot of people still think, despite his interview, a lot of people think that Luke might be involved and may end up, maybe the police just haven't got enough evidence yet. And again, so a lot of people think Tommaso is still involved, even though Tommaso and all the family, in fact, have been cleared. I've got a photo of Tommaso. Tommaso is definitely not the man in the mask, I would say, because I don't know, because Tommaso is older. I think whoever that man is in that ski mask, I was watching a profiler talking about it, and I agree with him. He's probably in his 30s. He doesn't look like a very young man. He was, I think, late 20s, early 30s. But Tommaso is older than that. I just don't, his beard, his facial hair is not right for that picture of, because look, let's have a look again at the perpetrator. Tommaso's facial hair is not right. His eyes are not right. I don't think that's Tommaso. Now, that doesn't mean to say, of course, that Tommaso is not involved, because Tommaso might have, been involved in it somehow. But I just don't think so. But yeah, what do you think? Of course, as always, let me know where I do think it could be Luke, but I'm not saying it is Luke. Just that you can see. Now, he said in that interview, yeah, I don't know, it could be anyone really, couldn't it? He said in his interview, that he didn't see the resemblance. He didn't know why people were saying, but there is a resemblance. There's definitely a resemblance, but as I say, could be a resemblance with a lot of people. So it, a resemblance doesn't mean anything, does it? So going back to this perpetrator again, it was a very interesting interview. I think it was on Brian Ensign. He was interviewing an FBI ex-profiler. Well, he's still a profiler, but he's retired from the FBI. And he was saying that that backpack, because it's got reflective strips, and also why is he not dressed in black, this guy? Because even the balaclava, really, when you think about it, it's not a black balaclava or ski mask, is it? Not, he is quite noticeable, and apparently the backpack he had on has got reflective strips, so somebody would see him. Mind you, I suppose there's no light there to reflect on it, so maybe not. But what he was saying is, why was he not all dressed in black, which he should have been, really? When you're sneaking around in the night like a ninja, you should be dressed like a ninja if you're a burglar or whatever. But the clothes that he's got on, they're quite light, aren't they? And even the ski mask is light, reflective strips on the backpack. Why is he not all in black, like the gloves, to sort of... It's a very strange, the whole thing is just so strange. And, it's like one of those, it's like the more you look at it, the stranger it all gets. You can't make sense of it. And I still think, as I've said before, I think that's why Tommaso keeps coming under suspicion, even though technically he's been cleared, is because it makes more sense if it was something to do with Tommaso or the family. Because people can't make sense of this. And so people want to make sense of it. And Tommaso, of course, was the last person to see Nancy. People don't really understand why she went in through the garage door. Why did he take her into the house, help her into the house? Was she on a Zimmer frame? Was she on a walking stick? We don't know what she was wearing. There's so much that we don't know. So people do tend to sort of invent things, don't they? So then, the other day, a couple of days ago, Mr. Nanos, Sheriff Nanos, did an interview with NBC, I think it was. He said, we are getting closer. That's what he said. We're getting closer. Maybe they are. I bloody hope they are. Just because we're not hearing anything does not mean that they're not dealing with it, that they've apparently got hours and hours and hours of footage to go through. And that does take time. So, we have to understand that. They have to get all their ducks in a row before they arrest anyone or detain anyone. They've already detained Luke and then the other guy, Carlos, and release them, and no charges, etc. So they want to get it, is it third time lucky? So the third time that SWAT team goes out, will that be the time that it is the actual perpetrator and not, just a sort of false alarm or whatever? Who knows? Let's go back to this. I wonder if I can find this interview. Let's have a look. I don't think I've actually even watched the interview, because you know what? I've gone a bit past Sheriff Nanos. It's almost like I don't even want to hear what he's got to say, because I don't believe anything he says anyway. So, it's ridiculous, really. But also, I had a lot going on. But let's see. Maybe we can watch it now. See what you think. I think it's NBC, wasn't it? But still no press conference. These are not really press conferences. This is Sheriff Nanos sitting down with sitting down with the TV reporter, like individually. I don't know why he does that, to be honest. But let's have a look, see if we can watch it together.
The Pima County Sheriff says a current team of homicide detectives and the FBI are working.
No, that's not. I want the full one if I can find it. One day ago, is it? I bet I won't. Don't know if you can get to the. Well, we can watch a bit of it. Let's just watch that bit of it then. Yeah, just watch a bit of it.
The Pima County Sheriff says a
just make sure it's showing, yeah? Let me know that you can hear it, please, because sometimes the sound doesn't come on.
The Pima County Sheriff says a team of homicide detectives and the FBI are working many leads to try and get closer to solving this case. News 4 Tucson's Andrew Capasso has covered this investigation from the beginning. He's live at the Pima County Sheriff's Department with a look at where things stand right now. Andrew.
Yeah, Robbie, good afternoon to you. Nice to see you. So this evidence ranges from that DNA collected near the scene to cars, and of course that doorbell camera video from the night Nancy was taken. Sheriff Chris Nato says there are several good leads here, and he is confident in his investigators. So right this second, investigators are waiting for DNA at that Florida lab, that private lab there in Florida. At the same time, dozens of FBI are still, we are less in the evidence collection phase and more in the analysis of everything collected phase. The sheriff says it's frustrating to wait. He understands that, but he says it is important, and this part takes time. Now are very promising. Listen to this.
We have information on this case that we think is going to hopefully lead us to solving this case. But it takes time, because my team can now focus on what's really the meat and potatoes of this case, and that is who it is that was in that video and who took Nancy Guthrie.
So the sheriff standing by his team of investigators. He was asked if he's confident his investigators will solve this. The sheriff saying, quote, absolutely, we will get there. So we're going to continue to stay on top of this. Of course, I've also talked to United Cajun Navy today. They're offering a lot of help and a lot of resources from.
Yeah, this was another in that United Cajun Navy that is a sort of quite well known sort of, they get involved in searches and things. But there's a lot of people say bad things about them because something happened. They were involved with the Sebastian Rogers case and Riley Strain case, and then a lot of people were saying that they were scammers, etc. You know, I don't know enough about it. They apparently were appealing for money to help them search, and then they didn't search. So anyway, they've offered their help, which apparently has been turned down by Sheriff Nanos.
Across the United States, really around the world. We're going to talk to them and hear from more of them coming up starting at 4 o'clock. For now, reporting live at Pima County Sheriff's Department headquarters. I'm Andrew Capasso, News 4 Tucson. Robbie, send it back over to you.
Thanks, Daniel, for.
Okay, let's just put the picture of. So, you know, Sheriff Nanos has said, there he is. Yeah, we'll leave that picture up. Sheriff Nanos has said they are making progress. He thinks they're getting somewhere, but it takes time. Now, it does take time. It took quite a long time with Brian Koberger in the Idaho murders, with the Idaho murders, and people were getting frustrated. But I know we do expect quick answers for things, don't we? You know, sometimes it happens. Like if you think of the when the Teppers were murdered, you know, recently that of course it didn't take long before they apprehended Monique's ex-husband, did it, for the murder of Monique and Spencer Tepper. We don't know any details yet of how he got into the home, etc. That will all come out, I suppose, when the trial comes up. But they were very quick, weren't they? It seemed like they were very efficient, the police. They released the picture of Michael McKee walking towards the house, though we didn't know it was him at the time. And then the next minute he was arrested, and they'd got a vehicle, they traced it back to him. So the keys will be with the vehicles as well, won't they? I think if they could identify a vehicle, then they can look for that vehicle everywhere. You know, the thing is that vehicle has had to travel on roads that have got cameras. Even if there aren't, it wasn't caught on any near Nancy's home. They've had to go somewhere. They've had to travel somewhere, and vehicles, caught on, I don't know, vehicle recognition plates or people's dash cams, or, they're going to notice these vehicles. That vehicle has travelled somewhere, whether Nancy was in it or wasn't in it, or whether it's gone to Mexico or wherever it's gone. But to figure that out, they've got to actually identify a vehicle, haven't they? That before they can look for it, they have to know what they're looking for. They can't just, suppose you can sit there and just look through loads of it and then try and identify a vehicle that way. And then they'll combine that, I suppose, with any triangulation of phone data, though it's thought that these people might have had walkie-talkies with them rather than their phones. But you know what? Even that's suspicious. I think didn't that happen with Koberger? It's suspicious if you turn your phone off these days. Whoever turns their phone off? So when they were looking at Brian Koberger, or after, I don't know, or it's like, why did he turn it off for that length of time? That's suspicious in itself now. Nobody turns their phone off unless they don't want it to be traced. Somebody turns their phone off for 2 hours, and it so happens in those 2 hours, that's when 4 young students are murdered. It's like, well, why did you turn your phone off? What reason are you going to give for having turned your phone off for 2 hours? Like you might say, oh, it'd run out of charge and I was charging it, I suppose. That's about the only time your phone would be off. But it would have to, I don't know about you. When I charge my phone off, I don't turn it off. I tend to charge it up overnight. But it's still on, on my bedside table. I don't turn it off to charge it, or I don't let it run right down so it turns off. Just to go to bed, put it on charge on the bedside table, and then in the morning it's charged up for the day. And I think most people probably do that. I doubt if, well, you let me know what you think. Do you ever turn your phone off? Do you ever turn your phone off? I don't think people do, personally. So yeah, the other thing that Sheriff Nanos came out with yesterday is that glove, one of the myriad gloves that were found. The glove that was found a couple of miles away from the crime scene has been traced back to an employee at a restaurant or something, hasn't it? So let me just read out to you exactly what was said. And that's interesting, because how was it traced back to that person? Strange, really, isn't it? So apparently the DNA of the glove found, let's see. Yeah, so the DNA of the glove found near Nancy's home finally matched to someone that's in a restaurant nearby, and the sheriff's department said it's unrelated to the abduction investigation. Yeah. So where does it say? It says it's been traced back to an employee of a local restaurant across the street. And the worker is not associated with the investigation and is not a suspect in the case. And that's been confirmed by various news outlets, etc. Apparently, Nanos said the owner of the glove we found was working at a restaurant across the street. It has nothing to do with the case. Now, it's interesting, how have they traced it back to that employee? Is it because they are in CODIS? They could be in CODIS, their DNA, if they've, been in trouble with the law in the past. Or maybe the FBI or the police department went round the local restaurants and asked, showed a picture, said, do you use these gloves in this establishment? And one of the restaurants said, yeah, that looks like the gloves we use. And so they tested all the employees. We don't know how they found out, traced it back to this person, but they have, apparently. So that's that solved. And then I think it's still unclear, isn't it, about the DNA that was found in the house. Apparently that DNA that was found in the house is not viable. But, when you look at what that perpetrator had on, they are covered from head to toe, aren't they, in gloves and, what's the words I'm looking for? If this is how they went into Nancy's house, what DNA could be in there? Because obviously the hands are covered up. Looks like maybe even 2 sets of gloves. Because I know, so they're obviously DNA aware, these people. But then the FBI profiler I was watching being interviewed said that even DNA, you can even breathe out DNA. The mouth is visible, isn't it? On the look, the mouth is open there. So the this FBI profiler was saying that he would be breathing DNA from his mouth. It's very difficult to stop any DNA. But he said because his mouth is open there, he will have breathed out DNA. DNA can come from all different sources. And where are those clothes? Has he just put them in a dumper? Or, are they hidden in his house somewhere? Where are the clothes that he wore that night? They're physical items. Have they been burnt? Would somebody notice a fire going or whatever? Because he will have had to get rid of all those clothes because he would know that maybe there's DNA, Nancy's DNA on them, that shows he's been in the house. And again, this guy was saying, maybe he took Nancy with him because maybe she had his DNA. Maybe she put up more of a fight than he was expecting. Maybe he got the mask off. She got the mask off. Maybe she recognized him. Maybe he was, someone who'd been round to her house doing something. She recognized him. So he had to take her with him because she might have had his DNA under her fingernails if she pulled his mask off, scratched his face. There's all sorts of different scenarios. But I still think this person went deliberately to get Nancy. I don't know why, but he went to target Nancy. Nothing was taken from the property, so I don't think this was a thief. Not your average burglar, because one, they went into the home when Nancy was there. I know she's a vulnerable old lady and they probably thought she wouldn't put up much of a fight, but they could have gone into this house when Nancy was at Tommaso and Annie's. Why go when she was there in bed? And I'll say, because nothing was taken. But again, this FBI profiler, he was saying, it may be just a picture of Savannah and Nat, because if this guy is a crazy stalker, maybe he has an obsession with Savannah, or maybe even with Nancy, because he said you'd be surprised how many people get obsessions with older ladies like that. There's a lot of sickos out there. It's awful, isn't it? Just the thought that anything like that might have happened to Nancy you know, in an sex way. Oh, just so horrible. But it happens. I've seen cases where it's happened before. You know, you cannot account for the craziness of some people. So this guy was saying, hey, maybe he just took a photo of Savannah or a photo of Nancy, or, you know, it doesn't mean sometimes they take things like a souvenir that it'd be the thing that you wouldn't even notice had gone. You know, if his main interest was not like burglarizing the house in your conventional way, he may have just took a personal item that as a trophy even, or, you know, we just don't know, do we? And like those the ransom notes, I still can't believe the police haven't been able to trace those electronic communications back. You know, maybe that will happen sooner or later. They caught one guy, didn't they? They caught one guy that was an imposter, and they did catch one guy, so he's obviously not as clever as the others. But the others that have sent ransom notes, so one thing you've had a lot of in this case is ransom notes. They haven't caught whether it was the actual person who took Nancy that sent those, or whether it was someone just either trying to cash in or just trying to stir things up like idiots do out there. We don't know, but they certainly haven't been caught. They haven't been caught. And this FBI guy said there's no way, in his experience, that could be a genuine kidnapping ransom note, because there was no way of the family to contact them. You know, everyone, all the interviews that I've seen with anyone who's had anything to do with kidnap cases, first thing they do is send their communication, and the first thing they say on the communication is, don't go to the police, don't go to the media, you know, that kind of thing. These people sent their notes to the media, to the local media, and to TMZ, a Hollywood gossip organization, you know. So I don't think they were genuine, but having said that, they haven't been traced back, and that's a crime in itself, isn't it? And those of you maybe might remember the Yorkshire Ripper, which was a case in the UK before social media and things like that. And this guy was going around sort of murdering women, like hammering them over the head. And then the police received a tape that was supposedly from the killer. And it was a guy speaking, like trying to antagonize the police. He had a very strong accent from Newcastle in the UK, which we call a Geordie accent. It's a very distinctive accent. So it threw off the whole police investigation, because they were convinced that the Yorkshire Ripper, who turned out to be Peter Sutcliffe, was in fact from Newcastle because of the distinctive accent. So like if you in America, it'd be like somebody sending a tape in with a strong Alabama accent, so you'd think that the killer was from Alabama or somewhere, you know, really strong accent. And that video, that tape, it was a tape, it was in the old days, you know, when it was tapes. I remember as a teenage girl at the time, you know, you'd get on the bus to go to work, and that tape would be playing. It was playing on all the buses in Manchester and probably in Leeds, because some of the murders happened in Manchester. In fact, one of the poor women that were murdered was literally found 10 minutes away from where I lived. And that's when my parents said to me, you know, you can't walk to school anymore. You've got to get the bus. So I was at high school then when that lady was found. In fact, two bodies were found not far from me. One at the allotments round the corner from where I lived. One at Manchester Royal Infirmary, which was a hospital a little bit further away, but still not that far away. And so, yeah, you'd get on the bus, go upstairs on the bus like I used to then, to smoke, probably when I was on my Saturday job or whatever, I don't know. And this tape would be playing, and you could hear this guy talking with this Geordie accent. And then the police would be saying, do you recognise this voice? So they were playing it on buses for the maximum exposure to the most people, because they thought this was the Yorkshire Ripper. And of course, it turned out it was not the Yorkshire Ripper. He was caught, the guys. I think he did go to prison for some time. But it just proved to be, some wackadoodle, as JLR would say, deciding to get involved for whatever reason, throwing the police, it threw the police resources off completely, because it turned out that Peter Sutcliffe, he was actually from Leeds, from that area. He was not a Geordie at all. He had a completely different accent. So he must have been laughing his socks off when he saw all this activity. I mean, these people, they make a gift to the offenders. There's Peter Sutcliffe going around killing women, one after the other. And then, the police are all looking for him. And then some idiot comes along and releases that tape, throws the police off completely. It's like a gift to the perpetrator, isn't it? He'd be thinking, oh, it's great. They're looking for a Geordie. They're not, they'll get emboldened because they know the police aren't even looking in their direction. And Peter Sutcliffe had been interviewed a couple of times, and he was only caught in the end from, a police stop because of his number plates or something like that. He had false number plates on. And luckily, the police that stopped him, they just got their hunch, like sometimes police, they do get hunches because, they deal with twonks all the time, don't they? So they do get an instinct. And luckily for women in general, the police that stopped him that night, they just had a feeling about him. And, when they found that he discarded a weapon and stuff. Anyway, so he was caught. But, he may have been caught much sooner if that idiot hadn't have come out and released the recording pretending that he was the Yorkshire Ripper and that he was in fact a Geordie because of his very strong accent. And the police wouldn't have got led off. Maybe that could have saved lives, because Peter Sutcliffe then carried on killing women because he wasn't caught. Maybe he would have been caught sooner if the police wouldn't have been led up the garden path. And I think that's what's happened in this case with the hostage ransom notes, possibly. Just some idiot wants their... Why would you even do... I just don't understand it. Do they just want to show that they're clever enough to fool the police? Or just are they so pathetic in their lives that that's the only... that's the pleasure that they'll get of leading the police, as I say, up the garden path? And this poor woman... There's a woman's life at stake. There's a family that's grieving. Don't they even care? I mean, just beyond me, to be honest. I hope they do catch them, whoever they are, as well as the perpetrator, of course. But I hope they catch the people that have been doing these ransom notes if they're a different person. And I hope they get the full force of... I hope they get big sentence. Anyway, what else did I want to say? Oh, yeah, another thing that just sometimes things occur to me. When the family went to the tribute, Savannah, Tommaso and Annie went to look at the tribute there at Nancy's home, but Cameron wasn't there. The brother, was he? So, maybe he's had to go back to work or, you just don't know. But it was, as I say, Annie, Tommaso and Savannah, but not Cameron, the brother. So don't know why that was, whether he's just had to go back. Thing is, even when these terrible things happen, life goes on, people have jobs, children, you can't you can't drop everything forever. You just can't. It's awful. It comes a point where you have to leave it in the hands of the police, I suppose. and just try and carry on as best you can until there's any news. It's awful, isn't it? Imagine having to go back to work and your mum's missing. I mean, just the thought that your mum is missing and you don't even know where she is, what's happened to her, what's happening to her at the moment. Is she being looked after? You know, this vulnerable lady, 84 years old. What is this? But what was this person even thinking? Anyway, so these are all the questions. We've got so many questions, but Nanos tells us they're getting closer. They're getting closer. So all we can do is sit and wait and hope for a break sooner or later in this case. Yeah, and really the only big news lately, if you like, it's not even big news really, is that the glove that was found is linked to a restaurant employee from the area, so it's nothing to do with the case. They're reviewing all this footage, lots and lots of footage. So that Cajun Navy, those people, they offered to help, but Nanos has said no, they don't want their help. And yeah, we're just waiting, aren't we? We're just waiting for a break in this case. So I just thought I'd come on and we do a bit of an update. As I say, not really that much to update, but it's interesting to talk about. Let me know what you think, of course, and yeah, about Luke. Remember Luke, and why was he wearing all those clothes in that interview? Why was he wearing so many clothes on when it was 90 degrees outside? Do you think that's anything suspicious about Luke, or not? So let's just have a look, one more look at the picture. Make sure it's showing. So yeah, what do you think? Let me know. Okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video. Prayers for Nancy, prayers for her family. Let's hope something breaks in this case soon. Thank you. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Please like, subscribe, and press notifications. Bye.